I know, you're not supposed to hear me. Apparently you're not supposed to see me either. What is with this camera? So, immediately goes to, like, fuzzy mode. It must have some, like, this default setting, like, if you're really ugly, it automatically, like, it really automatically just, like, makes you softer. Some default setting. The uglier you get. Alright. I never liked Logitech anything. I don't know why. I keep getting Logitech cameras. Logitech, whatever. Okay, welcome guys. What's up? Analysis stream with I am. I know, original name, right? Running out of things to call it. People don't like it when you put like subscriber analysis stream because then they're like, oh, it's just for subscribers. I don't want to watch. Then we get lawyers begging for subscriptions. So congratulations to Bijak for graduating from law school. Another rich Serbian lawyer. I mean, it's like Hollywood and Hungarians. Ridiculous. I was wondering, you know, World Senior 2025 50 plus. So Smurfette they just say the things out loud that everybody's thinking. I know, we'll sue the Trump administration with Bijak. I don't know if he can sue internationally now that he's a lawyer or just national. Are you an international lawyer or just a national lawyer? How does that work? He can only sue Serbians. I don't know. We can check. It's hit or miss whether I actually get notifications when people send me stuff. Let's see. No. Hi, Bill. No idea when that was. What was that? That was a long time ago. That was last week. We didn't get anything this week, Arsenal fan. Thanks, Mr. Coffee, for gifting a sub to Bijak. Did you get my game? Oh. Guys, don't you remember? Did you send me a game? I like how Schumacher, though he knew he wasn't a subscriber, sent a game and then begged for a gift sub on the stream. Did I just block you again? Did I just do that for a second time? That's funny. Alright, Atomic Flare versus Schumacher. This is another, like, 5-hour game, right? Analysis board. Ooh, perfect game. Is this bullet? I hope you sent us a bullet game. Because I specialize in bullet chess. Alright, that's in there. Now. Now we have to check this again. Block. High. Oh, they're going full. Arsenal fan and Nefidov are like full on Kamsky. Zenchess is here. No one wants a sub. First person to say exclamation gets a sub. They've already subbed. Can I get a sub? Well, they've already begged and gotten their gift subs. If you had only come like 2 minutes earlier, Zenchess. I'll continue my sub then. Alright. So, analysis board. You on lichess. So, here. Perfect game. Study. Analysis. Alright, so we got mostly Kamsky games submitted today. I think that Nefedov and Arsenal fan must be taking advantage of the discount for like British players. You're already a sub. Then you can't continue your sub. How did you become a sub? You must have gotten the gift sub yourself. You can always book a sub in advance. I like Italian subs. Tuna fish subs. All right. We're gonna warm up. We're gonna warm up with an Astrobate game, as usual. And in addition to that, I've got Geller for Mr. Slow. Nefedov against you'll never guess who. And a game I played, which is not really mandatory, that I put in as a tribute for Astrobate, if we have time. And then we've got Schumacher, very, very serious over the board game. No, just kidding. An Arsenal fan against Mr. I'm late to the game by 15 minutes. All right. So, Astrobate is our warm-up. Why am I not seeing my own stream? I must be delayed. So, what's up, guys? We had a lot of people here for the Wednesday night tournament. This Tuesday night thing is killing me, by the way. Like, playing poker on Tuesday nights has totally thrown my whole schedule. I was, like, exhausted for 2 days because I messed up my sleep schedule. I gotta stop doing this. This is a very temporary situation. I want the tournaments to go back to Tuesday. Just the summertime has made weekends like suboptimal. So either this week or the following week we'll go back to having the tournaments on Tuesday. But I can't really hack it much longer because I can't mess up my sleep schedule. So we got Astrobate Black, E4 C5. Welcome, everybody. Guys, gift sub. Let's see. Zenchess just gifted a sub. Tier 1 to GM Smurfette. Yeah, I didn't see that. But wait a second. Why did I not see that on the stream? So GM Smurfette is not a subscriber. But why doesn't that not like notify me on? Why does that not notify on Twitch when Zenchess makes a? Shouldn't I get a notification on Twitch when Zenchess donates a sub like that? Well, that's weird. So I see it over here, but I'm not seeing it over there. Huh. Well, I have two Twitches, and on one it showed it, on the other one it didn't. That's weird. But thank you. So you did find a victim for your gift sub. Sorry about that, GM Smurfette, but you got gift subbed. We do a poker game. We'll do a poker game. Alright. Gotta hit Foxwoods or something. I don't know, man. Bowling. Bowling at Foxwoods. I'm all ears. Guys, World Senior 2025 50 plus donation bar up to 1832.22. So expecting the big money to roll in once Schumacher becomes a successful and corrupt lawyer. You're going to see a lot of big donations rolling in from our future corrupt lawyer followers. Alright, so here we go. E4, C5, Knight F3. Astrobate is black. I told him to mix in the Knight C6 and the G6 because he's playing Accelerated Dragon. Knight F3, Knight C6, B3. You know, B3 is a decent move against E6, but I think that's really the only Sicilian where it's particularly good, or you know, reasonably good. Not that effective here, although there's a question as to what black should do. I think this pawn is oftentimes a problem. White doesn't have a great way of protecting that pawn when they play b3. So I would think like knight f6 would be a good line. You have to be willing to accept white playing e5, but the main move here is probably like d6 and e5. d6 and or e5. So you create a wall. You know, one interesting factoid is if b3 right away, black can play like d6, and if bishop b2, you know, f4, and then the Reprinsev, you get the Reprinsev attack with f4, a kind of king's gambit with the bishop on b2. I mean, it makes sense with the knight being not out yet. White can get this some counterplay against that pawn wall, but with the knight on f3, you know, another reason that this sort of not very effective. So after b3, you can go ahead and play a immediate e5 without white having the f4 break. Not everybody's cup of tea, but you can see it was played by Erdos, Saric, Halkias, Gusenov, so a lot of good players. Mariotti, Ostolic. All right, but this is a horrible move. So Aserbate just kind of randomly chucked his knight in there into d4. Now I wonder if there's any sort of rationale for this. It's funny that white takes, because I was just thinking takes is okay, but I wonder if it might be even better to play bishop b2. Aserbate likes moving the same piece twice. He's a specialist in this. If you think about the birds opening not being a very good opening, it's not as bad as the birds, because in the birds, when you play black, right, think about it. When you play black, you know, he's taking here and you're taking with your e-pawn, so your strong point on e5 gets dragged to d4, and then white can play e5 and you have less protection for the king side. At least here, when white's taking, you're taking toward the center. So you're not losing like your strong point on e5. So in a sense, it's not as bad as the birds. You know, once in a while you see people do this against the Rasalimo with bishop b5, but at least there you're like leaving that bishop out, hanging out to dry on b5. Wondered why I had no viewers. Alright, so knight d4. Knight d4 is played there. But b3, you know, unprovoked knight d4. What's the idea? I mean, we're going to block up his bishop on b2? But if white just plays bishop b2, what can you do? You're going to play queen b6, I guess. This would be the only consistent follow-up. Trying to support that. There's a problem, right? White could play a move that could attack your queen, potentially. Either knight a3, knight c4, or possibly knight c3, knight d5, knight a4. So what I would ask is what about, you know, the debate here with white to play this or knight takes e4. Maybe he's right to play this. All right. So knight takes, bishop b2. And yeah, I mean, you don't have to defend the pawn. But e5, you're like light square bishop. Black played g6. No. Looks like we have to do something there. So, anyway, original position, Takes. Bishop e2. Now, I don't know. I think that counterattacking here might be black's best option. There is no way to counterattack. Actually, let's see. d5, maybe e5. This pawn remains weak. It looks problematic to me. We end up with no good way to protect the pawn except for that old standard, which is problematic as well. Oops, that hangs a queen. Never mind. Okay, white can't attack the pawn again. Queen g4 is only possible after e6. So maybe this is our best shot, d5. I was also going to suggest this, but after e5 it looks like we have a problem. So the only way to counterattack here is d5. And check enables white to envelop. Doesn't look that bad, but you could take and then play e5. That might be a problem. Now what do we do? Now we're going to have to get really creative. I think it's time for d3 probably. But maybe it's not that bad. This looks like the only way to go. d3's best move probably. Peter's trying to get away with queen f5. Interesting idea, queen f5. Wow, that is cool. That is cool. That works. That might actually work. So, cheating with the engine. e5 is the best move. All right, Aspmate played it, but I just want to caution everyone. With this move, there are some caveats. The good news is that the bishop is on b2, so it's not on this diagonal. That means that any kind of future break with like f4 isn't well supported. Therefore, maybe white should opt for a different... Do you guys really have to do this? Like, during my analysis stream? Alright. So you're kind of detracting from the point of the stream. But whatever. Alright. So, bishop e2, e5, c3, counterattacking the center. This might be a try. But queen h5, that's very Larson-like. I like that move from white. He's inducing some kind of... trying to do some kind of weakness, but not effective here. You have just d6. It's alright. Just, it's alright, it's alright. I just want to, focus on the... I'm not going to respond to you guys. I'm just going to focus on the games. Queen h5. Yeah, if I have to play bishop d6 or something, it's probably a good move, but maybe it's not so good. I mean, you just play d6. He has bishop c4. This is a good move too. So now we can play g6, and that's exactly what has to be done. He doesn't make any moves that aren't constructive here. No queen e7, no queen f6. g6 are arguably the most natural move. Queen f3, and now queen f6. Okay, now you play queen f6. What do you think? I just don't want anybody to scare off the potential viewers that I might get. I hate forums. Okay. Queen f3. Queen f6. Yeah, I gave up on forums a long time ago. You're probably better off without forums. Queen f3, queen f6. The best thing anybody could ever do would be like ban you from forums. I hope they ban me too, because yeah, queen f3 is interesting. The best thing that ever happened to someone is getting banned from chat forums. Probably. Getting banned from using TikTok. Queen f3. How do we defend f7 now? I don't know about bishop e6. Yeah, get a room. Get a room. Try the panic room. Or maybe an escape room. Bishop e6. Asterbeat doesn't want to trade his good bishop, but this is quite an active bad bishop at the same time. I don't mind queen f6, except the fact that it blocks our knight, but maybe that's not a problem because anyway our knight doesn't want to block our f-pawn, ultimately. We're still going to need to do something about the bishop on c4, though. I don't know. You know, could we argue that this is the more natural move? What do you guys think? I mean, this has got to be... I think bishop e6 is the simplest. But we could say that white is better because he has bishop on the opposite color, but his bishop is shut down, you know. This isn't such a bad bishop on f8, is it? Here. I think difficult to judge. White's a little better, but I don't think it's that serious. These pawns in the center are worth something. So I don't know about this decision. What would the computer do? It would play... Wow, it's a close one. Wow, d5 is a move. What? What? That's something that Asterbait would play. d5. That's not normal. That's like an Asterbait. That's another submission from a previous stream, I think. Bishop takes d5, knight f6. Come on, bro. This is a bit much. I'm not doing that. So I think bishop f6. All right, let's see how queen f6 works out. A little unnatural. Oh, I see. There's a problem with bishop e5 check now. You're going on an adventure after bishop e5 check. That's more or less what I would call like a minor refutation of queen f6. Mr. Coffee, get a room. Yeah, so alright, this is the problem, but he misses it. He trades queens. Now we're fine. We're fine. You have a good clump of pawns in the center. e4 is attacked. d3. I want to get your d5 in. You're not quite ready for that. You play bishop h6. I love this move. It's a great active bad bishop. Castle. Now develop, develop, develop. And when you're not sure, develop. Can you say it with me, Asterbait? Develop. Develop, develop, develop. White has a good structure. You know, they can play for g3 and f4. One island. Also, there's a c3 break. But I think you're okay. I still feel that this is the solid thing to do. But no. Move the second piece. Yeah. It's very hard to get beyond Acerbate's like hang-ups with moving the knight 2 times. This is a bad move, and white makes it great again. Like a Donald Trump campaign slogan. If there's one way to make knight g4 great, it's by playing f4 and directly allowing black access to the e3 square. You couldn't... I mean, the only move that's like worse than that is basically bishop takes f7 check. I mean, I don't understand how much worse can you play, you know, like right into e3. So all the guy has to do is play h3, kick you back. Well, to be honest, though, yeah, this is insane. He doesn't even have, I mean, he doesn't even have f4 protected. What is he trying to do? Like, take on d4? Poor guy. So he has to play, like, c3 now. He has to try c3. And knight g4 is a bad move. c3 takes, knight takes. He's coming in here. You're like, why is your knight on g4? White is probably better now, because he has access to this and this, and he's outstripping you in development. But the worst move ever, f4. And now you have this dilemma. If you take with the bishop, he could, like, sack the exchange or something. I don't know. Or g3. Nah. You could just take with the bishop. So it's a tough choice. You could take with the bishop. He has bishop takes d4. Bishop takes d4. Bishop takes h2 check. Is this unclear? And then take on d4. I don't care if he takes s7. Who cares? Right? Yeah, you're just totally winning. So the problem is you can't decide which of the, like, crushing moves you want to play. Bishop takes f4 or knight e3. Knight e3 also attacks c2. Now he plays rook f3. Notice there's also rook f2, knight d1. Oops. That's not ideal. So rook f3, and now you took on f4. Yeah, because this is like a legitimate problem where white is going to start getting some pressure. You could just simply take his bishop and then take the pawn on f4, and you're up a pawn, and white has no compensation. But you took on f4 directly. That's also okay. Knight d2. And now, oops. Rook f2. He doesn't find rook f2. It's difficult to find rook f2 here. I mean, honestly. Very hard to find this move. He's like 3 places he can move his rook, and only one of them is not attacked. Now, honestly, like, he's in trouble no matter what he does. But, you know, there's some stuff like here, here, here. Still not enough. God, what a nightmare. So he goes there. This is crazy. He's just down in exchange for nothing. Yeah. Trying to trap his bishop, but it can't really be trapped. Bishop d5. And now this is a interesting idea. Yeah, he loses a piece. Almost. So what about this position? Rook c1 is forced. And you still have to work a little bit to finish him off. All right, Astrobate. Your opponent just wasn't on your level. Not on the level. He's a Serbian lawyer. No jokes about Serbian lawyers. Or Hungarian lawyers. Very similar. Astrobate just giving back the material. He's not a selfish kind of guy. So very easy win. Alright. Enough of that, man. That was good. But Astrobate, like, you're doing the knight twice again. You know, you're doing the knight thing where you're moving your knights twice. You gotta stop doing this. Look what happens in the opening here. First he goes with this knight. Watch this. You're not allowed to move your knights a second time in the first 10 moves of the game. That was move 3. And now the other knight, watch this, comes out and move 11. It got there to move 11. Okay. But no knight moves. No moving the knight twice in the first 10 moves. This is such a bad move. You're threatening nothing. I mean, you know, honestly, like, f5 could be a good move if you were better developed. But otherwise, this is a very poor move. You're lucky that he played f4. All right. I don't know about Mr. Slow. We haven't seen him. Has anybody seen him? Mr. Slow is Duster Musty. Duster Musty has followed. Mr. Slow is missing in action. Maybe last week of summer vacation. But he did add a game to our study, so I've included that in the list today. Yefim Geller versus Miguel Nydorf. We've got that game. Nefedov submission. A game I played. We'll do this just for entertainment. Astrobate, this is for you. This is just a little bit of a fun blitz game that I played. I haven't looked at this since I put it in, but Anonymous versus Anonymous. So, Birds opening. I don't know why this game made me think of Astrobate. I played E3, B3. It's a Nimzo in reverse. Black plays Bishop D7, Castle, A6, takes, and now Thomas got a structure like this against me, but he would never do this with the bishop on D7. Black takes with the pawn on D7, on C6. Why would anyone do that? Why would you put your bishop on D7 and then take with the pawn? So takes with the pawn, then we blockade. And I just thought this was a funny game. Knight C3, castles, knight A4. Attacking this pawn. And then, I mean, black is in a bad, same-ish Nimzo, basically. But he does this D4, which I thought, that's kind of crazy. You know, this is obviously triple attacked. So I can win a pawn here, and it's probably fine, but I saw my F pawn is hanging. If I take this, you know, I have to take time to guard the F pawn anyway. So I figured, okay, we don't need to take it right away. I'll be cute. I played Queen E2, Rook E8, Knight E5, and now it becomes like dark square bishop versus light square bishop. Queen C7, E takes D4, takes, and C5. Mr. So is here. All right. I thought you were on vacation or something. Welcome, Mr. Geller has woken. This is just an entertaining game that I played that I thought Astrobate would enjoy it. So, Nimzo, bishop takes E5, F takes E5, knight D5, and then bishop takes D4. We have a huge clamp. And it's ops color bishops. Good bishop versus bad bishop. Rook D8, knight B2. I like this maneuver here. Bishop E8. Got to give my opponent credit for trying to get their bad bishop out. Like Emmanuel Lasker. Knight C4, knight E7, knight D6, knight F5, and now queen E4. And you can take my bishop if you want to. He doesn't. And then again, the weird queen. This is just a random blitz game that I played. D4, I just thought it was brutal. Knight takes D6 and then E takes D6. So we have this huge... You know when Trump said bigly? Bigly? It's kind of like huge, right? It's bigly. But has anybody confirmed this? I didn't really research it. I would assume that he meant big league. Like the big leagues, right? Mr. Coffee maybe can confirm or deny. I'm not sure. I think he went to a private room. Do you guys have the password for Mr. Slow? Mr. Coffee, an Arsenal fan? Private room? Do we have a password for that? Don't you guys think he meant big league? He just said it fast, so it sounds like bigly. It's a big league lawyer. I guess that makes sense. Bigly? I don't know. Hope he doesn't think that bigly is actually a word. Queen D7, Queen H4. I just thought this was brutal. Not a big deal, really. I like this game. I don't know why. Oh, I remember what it was. The mate, right? Astrobate would like the mate. Here. Here. And then h6. The upscaler bishops. Take. This is cute, right? This is for Astrobate. Because he likes the cute mates. Big League Chew. Exactly. Big League Chew. That's what I'm talking about. That's what we're talking about, folks. Big League Chew. Takes and mate. And that's mate. Rook h8 mate. So I thought that was a cute one. Anyway, just a little bit of a joke game for Astrobate. This is just random. Alright. Inspired. But we've got Mr. Slow in the house with the late summer. Mr. Never Free of Work. Mr. Free of Never Work. Mr. Never Free of Work just donated $31. Oh my god. And Care has followed. Care 1614. Thank you for following and thank you for the donation. $31, guys. We're up to 1863.22. We still have a long way to go to our goal. We have 51 days to get there. Tomorrow we'll be streaming again a short blitz stream. And then Sunday is our simul, our big flagship stream, where you get like 20 or 30 viewers. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. You should check it out. All right. There are 20 to 30 people who actually care about chess. So, beautiful mate. This is Mr. Slow's submission now. It's Geller versus Najdorf. Great matchup. The opening. What do you think? Okay, so I love when we try to spell Cyrillic names with the Latin alphabet. It's so stupid, you know. Yefim. Is that 3 F's or 2? Smokey and the Bandit. So, what tournament is this from? This is Geller. I imagine they must have played a lot. Geller against Najdorf. Candidates turn. Oh, it's Zurich. This is a very, very famous tournament. I have the tournament book, which was annotated by Bronstein. Yefim, right? I mean, I guess it's like a, I don't know, Jewish name. Yefim. I'm not really sure. Not that common. How many other Yefims do you know? I guess you occasionally see it with the former Soviet players. I can't think of another one, to be honest. Yefim. I mean, you know, you got to say it like a Russian. Yefim Giller. Nefedov will kill me. All right, Najdorf with black. Najdorf originally from Poland. Lived in Argentina. Okay, so we're white. It's a Sicilian. E4, C5, Knight of 3. By the way, this is one of the most famous tournaments of all time. Zurich Candidates Tournament, 1953. Everyone should have the tournament book by Bronstein. One of his, you know, only. Bronstein was a brilliant writer, I think, but he really didn't write a lot of, you know, maybe articles and stuff. But I have The Sorcerer's Apprentice, 200 Open Games. I mean, it's a shame that Bronstein didn't write more because he had a lot of great anecdotes and was an interesting character. So Knight f3, d6, d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, knight f6, knight c3. We got the Najdorf. And now I'm thinking at this time, Opasensky variation or whatever would have been like the classical way to play. But around this time, this is the 50s, right? Early 50s. I would think, Spassky and these guys, like the bishop g5 would have started to become trendy. And that was never Geller's preference, it seems. Geller liked to play this Opasensky variation with bishop e2. And he was content to castle kingside in most cases. So like a really kind of classical way of playing with white, not going nuts with bishop g5. Black now playing e5, the original Najdorf. E5 isn't mandatory here. Bishop e2 is a relatively quiet move. So if black wants to play e6, the Scheveningen isn't so bad. If there's ever a justification for playing in Scheveningen, this position is probably it. Kasparov played a lot of games in the Scheveningen, but rather than playing a Scheveningen move order, if you play the Scheveningen by a Najdorf move order, it makes sense. But I think this might be the better way for black to play for a win, in a way, because you keep a little more tension, but it's also much more dangerous because white has much more space. Snedsteak subscribed for 28 months. Hello, I was just thinking about something. That happens to me every once in a while. So, I think from a practical aspect, e6 is more double-edged, but e5 is more space. You get more space. It's not as cramped, but very committal compared to e6. Thinking or stinking. So white can also play knight f3, but this is much more interesting. Yo, what's up, bro? Asturbate with the chess tournament, Zurich International. Yeah, I have no idea if that book can still be published. Is still published, or you can only buy. It's such a fantastic book that it must still be in print. Probably one of the greatest selling chess books of all time, among cognoscenti. As far as tournament books, it might even be number one, I would imagine. All right, knight b3, bishop e6. Black can also play bishop e7. One interesting thing is like if white plays knight f3 and then black plays bishop e6, sometimes black has to deal with like knight to g5. But obviously with the knight on b3, that doesn't matter. Now, interesting thing is a lot modern players started playing these h5 type of ideas, not in this particular position. Usually against the like bishop e3. So bishop e6 castles kingside. With bishop e2, white's generally intending to castle kingside, so black isn't afraid and isn't playing h5, unless you're like a Lynchich. Now, so you see even top modern games, Vachier, Najdich, Mamedyarov. What do we do now? Karpov also played this way with white in the 70s. Bishop e7 is a move. Knight on bd7 is a move. Typically the knight goes to d7 in the Najdorf. You're thinking, isn't it crazy how your chess content is totally original on Twitch? Like everyone else are adrenaline junkies or blitz addicts with short attention span. Well, there's a few people, I guess there's a few people like me somewhere. I like, he's not a big streamer, but Art Vega also plays some slower games. And but among the weller known bigly streamers, yeah, no, I mean it's not just my chess stream. Sensei, it's yeah, it's the culture. It's the culture. But my argument would be like, if you want adrenaline, why are you playing chess? Why are we trying to turn chess into a high adrenaline sport? There is a lot of adrenaline in chess, but it doesn't have to be so cheap. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Well, I mean, if you have a stream, you're gonna make more money by catering to the cheap adrenaline. I was never in it for trying to stream to make money. I just do it, because I'm stupid. And I love chess. But, yeah, you're right, of course. It's a sign of the times, though. Short attention spans. Most people can't take their eyes off their phone watching TikTok videos. It's unbelievable. We're all brainwashed. So knight on BD7, the top game in the list is Spassky Byrne, 1974. Do I still need games? We always need games, just not too many. This one was just finished. Okay, thanks, Shaki. Broadcasts? What is that? What is that? Superstars? Oh, Ivanchuk? Alright, let's see. I guess we could accept an Ivanchuk game. Dude. I suppose. Alright, it's in there. Yeah, Ivanchuk, one of the few that would put his reputation on the line against random people. Alright, let's continue. So, knight on BD7. Shockingly, the top game here is from 1974. But I would think that most players would play Bishop E7. So Naidov trying to maybe delay committing to Bishop E7, but he's going to have to play Bishop E7 eventually. Now F4. And so the billion-dollar question is, what do you do when white plays F5? We had this, no? I don't remember if the move order was exactly the same. But yeah, similar. It was a little different, Arsenal. I think you're thinking of the F4. I don't remember now. There were several games, but I don't know. So you see Karpov, Gergiu, Spassky, Byrne. Black can take on F4. If he allows F5, the problem is like your bishop, this is your good bishop with black. And this is kind of white's bad bishop. So any sort of exchange with bishop c4, I think strategically is sub optimal for black. And obviously taking for the knight on b3 would leave him with white square weaknesses. So this is the type of position where you see a lot of moves like rook c8, queen c7, b5, all moves that like support bishop c4, or black decides to just bite the bullet and take here, which is a concession because white can develop the bishop in one move. But still, yeah, I think queen c7 is the most natural. Though, rook c8 gives black the additional idea of sacking the exchange with rook takes c3. But it's probably not going to matter because black's going to be facing f5 anyway. f5, bishop c4. Maybe later we can sack the exchange on c3. But it's a dynamic situation because when white plays f5, white takes the pressure off of e5. And taking pressure over e5 means that it's easier for black to play d5. And so ultimately, there's so many like shifting factors here. We say this is a bad bishop on e2. This is a good bishop on c4. But is that the case when black achieves d5? If black achieves d5, then maybe his bishop on f8 isn't a bad bishop anymore. You know, it's coming out to b4, c5, what have you. So the whole thing about good bishops, bad bishops, is dependent on the central pawns. If the central structure evaporates, there is no such thing as a good bishop or a bad bishop here. Although this bishop is pretty bad. I mean, white's pawns are 5 out of 7 pawns are on white squares. I guess at the end of the day, I'm not sad to trade my pawn-like bishop in almost any cases for your light square bishop. But anyway, all right, queen c7, f5. Notice there are other moves here like king h1. Lembit ol. Rip. All right. Also, bishop e3, just, yeah, sure. Developing a piece. Why not? Okay, f5 committing, bishop c4. And now, in the Dragon, we would get this sometimes, in the classical Dragons. Thanks, Steak, for donating, by the way. I mean, subscribing, donating. Thanks for donating your subscription. Sometimes bishop d3 in those classical Dragons. Dumbo played bishop d3 here. I guess it's not really a great move. Black is likely to get in d5 anyway. Bishop d3 doesn't really do anything. It just kind of wastes time. So no reason to play that. The question is, what should white play? Okay, you could take... What about taking and offering a trade of queens? If I take, no one's played this. Kind of a fraidy cat way of playing. What is most likely to happen? You playing Bullet Arena on lichess? That's more likely, probably, but neither is likely to happen. Somebody starts paying me to do stuff. But I played bullet chess with Sasha Gelman once. It's more likely I would play bullet chess. This is lichess.org. Not .com, you know. I don't want to play on .com. Chess sites should not be pay to play, you know. It's not be commercial. Why does it have to be commercial? Yeah, there's all sorts of stuff after queen d3. I imagine black is fine here. Black has to be fine. So this isn't testing at all. So the question is, like, what is good for white? I mean, king h1 is kind of slow. Bishop g5 does nothing. So the interesting thing about this move, this a4, it has the best score. So Karpov ended up playing it 3 times, getting 2.5 out of 3 against Bronstein, Georgiou, and Stoica. Istvan Polgar. I don't know who Istvan Polgar is. That's funny. I don't know that that's related, because the Polgar's father is Laszlo Polgar, so I don't know who Istvan Polgar is. Istvan Polgar against Zoltan Ribley, 1972. No, not clear if that's a relative of the Polgar sisters. G4 is crazy. In a good way. I like A4. It restrains B5. But there's some risk involved. You can argue that white is playing on black side of the board with A4. But Karpov must have copied Karpov clearly copied Geller by playing these games in the 1970s. Geller was still around. Actually, I mentioned this before. Geller, I believe, worked with Karpov. Wasn't Geller one of Karpov's trainers? Mr. Slow would probably remember. I'm getting the dementia. But I think that, yeah, no, there's definitely a connection there. Geller definitely influenced Karpov. So, a4, rook c8. We can't criticize Naidorf's play, though, you know. Bishop e3, bishop e7, and now a5. Still, has Black done anything wrong? I don't think so. So now Naidorf decides to turn into a modern grandmaster and play h5. Arsenal was talking about g4. No, I think that Geller was one of his seconds, though. At some point. Sensei, thanks for donating 200 bits. That's true, though. Geller probably worked with almost everyone. Istvan Polgar passed away. Really? I never saw the guy. In 2018. That's strong enough. That player was playing Ribley, probably Hungarian Teen Championship, 2300. Probably an FM. I never met him. They snuck that one past me. Although sometimes like Hungarian players have emigrated and I didn't know about it. That's another possibility. Like Tot Bela was a strong player, immigrated to Italy, lived there for like 20 years, 25 years, and then moved back. Like Benko. Benko immigrated, then moved back in the 2000s. So a5, h5. This is an extreme move, if you think about it. But Naidorf has gone out of his way to delay castling. And Arsenal fan was talking about g4. But let's just stop for a minute and say, what would Boris Gelfand do? You know, I mean, I don't know, man. Castles. Bozidar Ivanovic. Someone did play g4 here. It's not crazy. It's just risky. Rook a4 is a very cool idea. Forcing Black's hand. But I don't know. I would think that castles is the safest thing to play. But we found something else. There's a really... This kind of looks critical position. The d5, I mean, everything hinges on d5. If Black can get in d5, he frees himself. But maybe he doesn't want to play that. He doesn't feel comfortable playing that till he's castled. But he doesn't seem to be planning on castling either, so I don't know. Can White just improve their position without taking any risks here? Well, King h1 would be very typical of Geller, I would think. I'm even actually a little bit surprised, you know, knowing Nefedov and his similarity with Geller strategically. Geller's like famous for moves like this. Queen e1, Queen f2. I'm very surprised he didn't play King h1, but I wonder if he didn't anticipate h5 almost. It's like he knows Naidorf somehow, and he knows his opponent. Maybe he sensed Black wasn't going to castle. So a5, h5. Bishop takes c4, queen takes c4, rook a4, queen c7. Yeah, I mean, I think I've seen this game because I did study a lot of games in this book. Not all of them. But is this a point where maybe Najdorf puts the queen on the wrong square? Because I'm having serious doubts about queen c6, but maybe he was afraid his queen would get trapped. There is an issue with queen c6, knight d2. I mean, I don't think it actually gets trapped, but for example, if queen c6, knight d2, there could be issues with knight g4. I don't know how serious that is. But we have this idea, I'm saying like rook c4, where the queen wouldn't have any squares to move to. Yeah, h5 is a typical idea, Arsenal fan, especially modern Najdorfs. But not, I wouldn't think that much back in the day, when players were a little more classical. It wasn't like everybody and their brother played h5 all the time at this stage. After rook a4, I'm expecting h3, and that's what he played, stopping knight g4. But I wonder how serious is the threat of knight g4. So if knight d2, it's unclear. He could have played this, allowing knight g4. This is very interesting. Yeah, I was actually thinking about this. Speaking of Ivanchuk, but Geller, I don't know. It's a lot to calculate. This would be a lot to calculate. He doesn't want to mess around with that. So he plays a safe move h3. It's a little bit slow. But I have the question here about the queen. All right. What if we put our queen on the other square? Queen c6. White would probably still play h3. But let's just say for argument's sake, we did this, threatening rook c4. Black has d5. Yeah, let's go back, though, one move. All right, let's go back one move here. And I wanted to stop here and note that there's two games from the 2000s. This game, probably some others that aren't in the list. Black has d5, apparently. Bro, I mean, this is the move that we're supposed to be playing with Black. And Najdorf of all people. If you can play it, you're going to seriously consider playing it. But how does it work? This is a pawn sacrifice? What's the idea? Take on b3, trade the dark square bishop? E takes d5, no. You could do this. But the computer doesn't like this that much. It's doing a bishop exchange and then playing bishop b4. Oh my god. Boris Gelfand. So you undermine the d5 pawn and you get your bishop. It's brilliant. You get your bishop out to b4. This is a really cool way for Black to play. And I think the instinct that I have is that Geller got a little bit carried away. A5, h3, you try to do everything and you're asking for too much. Black hasn't done anything wrong, Why should he really be worse? Necessarily. Najdorf played correctly here. This is asking a little bit too much from the position, but I think that he misses his best shot with d5. There was another line too. I think it's just taking and then d5, right? Because it would just transpose. You could take and play d5. Same thing. If knight takes, the c2 is gone. So, very easy way for Black to equalize here. Easy with the computer. But I'm not a Najdorf expert. If I was a Najdorf expert, I would have found it. Gelfand would have found this. I'm telling you, he would have found d5. a5 is too slow. h5 is a bit extreme. So now the game is balanced again. But how do we get in d5? We can't get in d5 now. So he has to try something else, like b6 or something, right? He could play b6, and he ends up playing b5. But even bishop takes b3 wasn't equalized. The computer still thought white is a little better there with the light square bishop. But this is interesting. He goes b5 on the next move. Only counterplay. This move isn't necessary. And I think this is a liability in the long run for black. You could easily lose the endgame because you like put one too many pawns on the dark squares or something like that. I think the computer wanted to play b6. Yeah. But it's still, black is a bad structure now. This looks like Karpov 101. Really looks like a Karpov game now. Rook f2, guarding here. Black's plan to play knight h5 in some positions, obviously not here because of knight d5. Rook f2 guards the c2 pawn, preventing queen takes c2. Black plays b5. Rip a6 pawn. So when you play b5, you have no counterplay. You're doing it out of semi-desperation. Knight takes, and now a6 is very weak. But black is threatening this. Knight c4 is huge, as they say. So Geller sacrifices the minor exchange. Bishop for knight. Yes. Yes, Howard, this is a sacrifice. Bishop takes b6. Queen takes b6. That bishop is, John Nunn has nights when he can't sleep because he thinks about this bishop so much. Or Boris Golko. Or Gelfand. Yes, it's a bad bishop. It's also a bastard and a terrific defender. So it's not lost for black because white necessarily has two knights and it's a light square bind. It's a very strong defender. Queen e2. So white needs Karpovian boa constrictor technique here. Rook a8. This is a bad sign. He's tied down to his pawn. King h2 unpinning. We still have to watch this. But anytime the knight leaves f6, there's boom, knight d5, game over. Castles, and then rook f1. And why rook f1 and not rook f3? I don't know. I guess knight h5. If you play rook f3, knight h5, knight d5, queen d8. But still, at least the knight will get into g3. So there's no knight h5. Yeah, he's going to triple on the a6. I thought this was a good maneuver too. Rook f3, rook d3 would be very strong. Also, there's more than one way to skin Mr. Coffee's cats. But, and I don't think that white has to rush necessarily in this position. But stopping knight h5 is a key. Yeah, that's a disaster, man. That's a disaster. Now rook 1 a2, and don't tell me he's going to play queen a1. I don't want to see any queens on a1 here. This just defends the b2 pawn. He's ready for there or there. See? John Nunn. Boris Gelfand bishop. Now b3 is happening. It's starting to look like a bad Benko gambit. So it's becoming one of those games from the most instructive chess games ever played where white just dominates the d5 square. Najdorf never got real counterplay. Notice how this rook even defends e4. Patience. Patience. And then bishop b6. Classic maneuver, by the way. It's still a strong piece. Knight e d5. Knight d5, knight d5. Now, is that knight automatically winning? It's not just the knight. I mean, black is not happy that he played h5, h4 here. I mean, I think this is a problem. Having another pawn, if the pawn were back on h7, he would have, I think, much more safety around his king. But of course, f6 looks extremely dangerous. This is nice, though. So rook a1, and then queen f2, he goes for a queen exchange. So he basically forces an exchange of queens. But white's still better in the endgame. So what do you think? Is this Arsenal fan? Saji Arsenal fan draw? Could white avoid the exchange of queens there? Well, I mean, yeah, you gotta consider it. Of course. c2 is hanging. But yeah, it looks extremely dangerous to take. Well, no, the bishop's hanging. He can't take. So queen g4. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of players would have played queen g4. Who knows what the time situation was? It's move 34. Possible time pressure. Where you've got a choice between, like, you go for an attack, or you're solidly better with no risk of losing after queen takes f2. The computer might say this is the better move. But anytime you keep the queens on the board, it's a little higher risk. I admit, like, f6 looks very, very dangerous. So black can play bishop d4. f6. g6. Queen. Queen g5, what do we do? Queen g5, queen h6. There's nothing clear. So he plays the safer way. He trades queens, probably time pressure related. Rook f1, bishop d4. But is white winning here? Because I kind of think no, you know. I think our Arsenal fan is going to save this against me, but maybe I'm wrong. Karpov, I mean, actually this is a very technical endgame. Karpov, Arsenal fan, is probably 1-0. Yeah, the computer thinks it's just this one move. Just c3. The engine also would have preferred to avoid the exchange of queens. But there's a move we missed. Bishop e3. Although I'm not fully... I see. So the idea is like bishop f4 and queen g3 and try to get a mate in on h2. So white takes a pawn here with knight takes, queen takes, and plays a heavy piece ending when it's not an easy win because white doesn't have a passed pawn. After f6, there's queen g3 and white loses the rock. Yeah. Yeah, there's always queen g3. So it turns out like this is better if you want to avoid the exchange of queens. Or even the weird queen b5 threatening to go in there. I mean, that's kind of scary. But again, I think time pressure probably. Remember, analog clocks, there's no increment in those days. And so I think there's much more likelihood of serious time pressure when you're talking about like move 40 and people don't know exactly how much time they have. Rook f1, bishop d4, and now c3. And we're squeezing him in a Karpovian endgame now. Black has rook b8. It may not be a threat, though, because white has b4, take, take, and pin the bishop to the rook. So I'm thinking like black doesn't actually have a threat in this position. Any sort of rook b7 can be met by b4. Need, yeah, I don't know. You can't really attack the pawn on b3. Or if you do, white's going to play b4 and then steal the a file. But maybe not. Okay. So this is what happened. He plays g4, take, take, rook b7, and then he doesn't play b4, which is interesting. He says check. Now it doesn't work, or it does work, doesn't it? It does work. So he could play b4 here. So what's the point? Why doesn't Geller play b4? Creating a passed pawn. You can't take it without losing the exchange. My assumption would be that bishop d4 takes control of the a file, so he only has this, but still this looks good for white. Maybe it's not enough to win. Black would get some counterplay. Rook a7, come down, try to get behind the passer. It's 1.8, 2.2 advantage for white. But Geller, okay, he plays, you know, again, this is move 39. Karpov would definitely not rush, or Shereshevsky. If you play b4, it's very committal. He can wait, so he waits. And f6 is an ugly move for black. It's a very ugly move for black. I mean, to put another pawn on the dark squares and weaken your light squares. If I could just maybe teleport my king over to d7. See, white wants to teleport his king over to c4. And black wants to teleport their king over, you know, to like d7 or something, where the kings become relevant. But if that happens, then g7 is very weak. But I think king c4 is pretty dangerous for black. This, I don't know how much this helps black. f6. Yeah, he gets his king to f7. Who cares? Geller's heading right for c4. And this is surprising now. He plays b4. So if we go here, rook h8, rook h1, what's the problem? Maybe black can try to get the rook in with like rook h5. For some reason, Geller didn't want to do that. He didn't want to commit to moving the king to d3 after rook b8. So he plays b4. Attacking the bishop, so the rook can't move. Now, why wouldn't black exchange pawns here? Maybe he wants to keep the possibility of a4 alive. I find that hard to believe. And now g6, trading pawns. And a very interesting move now, not trading pawns here. So this pawn can be captured with check now. G takes f, e takes f, great square for the king. A takes b, c takes b. We can't lose a bishop. Bishop has to move. And these poor pawns, man. I can't get all the pawns. Now, black is almost wondering some mating nets here. Threatening h4, knight takes f6, check. preventing h4, check, king f3, attacking the bishop, and then f6 is hanging. But b4 would be hanging if we take on f6. So this move, what exactly is white just defending the b4 pawn with rook g4 check? So here, I mean, black is obviously in a very, very difficult position. But I don't know. I'm still not 100% sure that he's lost. Probably. Rook b5. Knight takes f6. Ah. So knight f6 is the mate. Knight f6 and rook g4. So he... Yeah, but he will have... Okay, he would have rook takes b4 there, though. It's not automatically mate. If you go to b5... You have rook takes b4. Is this lost? Now it's a draw. I mean, rook f8 looks horrible. It's extremely passive. Obviously, black's in a difficult position. His king. He goes to h5. He drops a pawn with check. His bishop practically has no squares. Hard to come up with a waiting move. But like you're saying, rook b5 makes sense because it attacks the knight. So rook b5. There's rook g4. Okay, rook g4. Now rook g4 wins. Yeah, it's just rook g4. I mean, we're going to win pawns with check. Rook b5, rook g4 check, king h5, knight takes f6 check, king h6. And, oh, that's mate. That is mate. Rook g6. Oops, that is mate. That's a nice one. There you go. Thank you. Yeah, so rook b5 is a mate. That's a beautiful mate. Dorian defense is reigning with a party of 1. Thank you for the raid. One is enough. A raid is a raid. Thank you for the raid. Rook f8, passive defense. Not going to cut it. Think about it. If your rook is on f8 and white has a knight on d5, then the knight is as valuable as the rook. And therefore you're down the exchange, basically. That's over. This is over. That's not a defense. I mean, everything wins now. Yeah, he has no defense. So it's been lost all the way this whole endgame, pretty much. It looks like. I was suspicious of Gelder's of knight f6. I don't like it. Putting other pawn on dark squares. It creeped me out. I think this is, if you want to argue that there's still a point where there's still some kind of very tiny hope for black, it's not, you're not improving your position by putting another pawn on dark squares. Just, Geller was, I mean, Neidorf was probably in time pressure when he played knight f6 here. I mean, this is gross. f6 is really ugly. So, it's a difficult position. Alright, so anyways, we got down to the end game. Rook f8, b5, b6, takes, rook b8, so check, here, and then here. And then we're going to mate with knight takes f6 and rook g6. Very brutal. Alright, now we've got Nefedov. Let me delete this. Alright, I'm just going to leave it there. Nefedov is up next. Schumacher, Arsenal fan, and Vasil Ivanchuk. Vasil, are you here? Wasil. Wasili. We got all kinds of Grandmaster games for you guys. First, we should do Schumacher, and then we'll go to pure Grandmaster games. Just Schumacher and Grandmasters. I don't know if Schumacher's still here, but congratulations for finishing law school. He couldn't have done it without watching my stream. So he's here playing the white side of the white side of a semi-Slav. Bishop g5, anti-Botvinnik variation, but most people will play, good players will play knight d7 now a lot to transpose to the Cambridge Springs. This is like black's worst move, objectively. If people play this move against you, it means they really don't know theory typically, although there's a couple examples of Carlsen, but I would simply say, look, Magnus can play anything. It doesn't matter, what openings he plays. I think it's an inaccurate passive kind of Queen's Gambit for black. E3, castles, and now best is Queen C2. Another good move is Bishop D3, which was approved by yours truly, and I approve this message. Rook C1 isn't necessary here. So I think, even though it has the best score, ironically, I would play either Bishop D3 or Queen C2. C takes D5 is an exchange variation. Now, one thing you have to know is if black plays C takes D, you get this kind of disgusting exchange variation, and black can put his knight on C6. I feel kind of ill when people do this. But, okay, that's not typically the reaction. Black can also take with the knight, trading pieces. We get a normal exchange variation, and then once Anatoly Line did something like this against me, Bishop G4. I feel like we saw this game before or something. Or maybe Schumacher submitted the exact same position like a month ago. There was something almost identical to this. So Bishop G4, usually not a good plan in these type of openings. I would think like white can totally allow that. No problem. Castle queenside, or even castle kingside and put the king on h1. So in a sense, like Bishop G4 is an empty threat. His only real plan would be to play Bishop G6, Bishop H5, Bishop G6, and it takes a long time. Black's better off not doing that. Rook E8 and knight D7. So this is artificial. Castles. You see, I wouldn't do that because you're committing. I don't understand. Like, lately Schumacher never does his favorite thing, which is usually Queen C2. It's like you stop playing Queen C2. Your last game you submitted, you also did that. What is it you have against Queen C2? You always did Queen C2. He's like omitting. This is disgusting. No way. You played Bishop E2. Schumacher, play with conviction. You're playing different because you're playing a 2293. It's like he's intimidated by his opponent. He would never normally do this. This is very passive. Bishop E2. Now you're black. You lost your whole advantage. H6, Bishop H4, Rook E8. Fortunately, this Bishop on G4, first of all, it was never a great plan in the first place. Second of all, I don't know. But anyway, maybe black should go back to F5. What's the sense in H6 for black? I would think like go here. Oh, look, we've got a transposition to like 5 games with Bishop F5. Crazy. He plays solid in the opening, then tactically excels. Depends on how many, Palinka he's drank. Uh, it's funny that bishop f5 transposes some kind of like normal variation. But I think it justifies h6. So now bishop g3. You're practically asking black to play knight h5 now and trade off your bishop. He's not ambitious here. He was very unambitious in the opening here. But I'm thinking because his opponent is like 2300. It's a very fast game. What is this? Rated blitz. He did this exact same thing last game. I don't really like it, you know. You traded pieces, you take on an IQP position now, but you don't have any mojo with white here. Maybe you're equal, but you're only equal. So it's probably better not to play e4. Although it's difficult to come up with a plan. You're on the white side, you're on the black side of a Caro-Kann exchange variation now. Rook c8 is kind of a dumb move. Because what's black going to do? Play c5? I mean, the normal plan is a minority attack with b4, but difficult to get in. Though you're lucky, you could probably play it here. Play rook b1, admit your mistake, and then play for b4. If black plays bishop f5, you play bishop d3. The proper plan, you know. The rook doesn't do anything on c1. You need to play the pawn structure. Go for the minority attack. You know, or maybe trade pieces and play like Karpov. But I don't know. This doesn't seem right. But anyway, I'm overanalyzing like a blitz game. d6 e4, knight takes e4. But I don't think that white has any attack. Now, if he sits there and makes a stupid move or two, we're going to see like bishop c4, rook e1, queen b3. You know, give white like 3 moves in a row. And suddenly this IQP comes to life. Oh, guess what? We have like 7 pieces attacking black on the light squares. But I mean, even right here, if black were to like play bishop takes f3 and offer a draw, what are you going to do? You know? Let's just say my opponent played this. You could try to be creative. Take with the pawn. But objectively, this is probably a draw after bishop takes f3. And you could argue that white's slightly worse because he has an isolated pawn. But I can already tell you what's going to happen. It's going to explode on the light squares, where this bishop on e7 doesn't do anything. Black goes for an exchange. This looks like a reasonable move, but it does leave c5 kind of weak. Support point. So, well, obviously black can take. And again, you know, draw offer is on the table. Yeah, this is where black needs to be realistic. Are you playing for a draw or are you playing for a win? Because b6 sucks. This also became a very strong support point. Knight on e5. I was going to suggest queen b6 possibly. But the obvious solution for black is to take. And then it's equal. But this move weakens our structure. It's like one of those knight c5 Caro-Kann classicals. If we go weaken our structure, again, the white squares look a little creepy. So now he comes back with knight d3. Again, suggestion, bishop takes f3, bishop takes f3, queen takes d4, offer a draw. And get out of there with your half point. But black didn't seem to have any appreciation of that, so he underestimated the danger. Plays queen d5. Queens are the best blockaders. But I mean, at this point now, this is starting to look a little creepy. Maybe the other guy. See? Here. Yeah, black can lose this. He weakens c6, he weakens his white squares. White isn't going to kill you on the dark squares. They can only kill you... Why isn't black better here? Well, where? Like after queen d5? queen side. I mean, white's turning like bishop c4 now. So this is a huge problem. Black putting the queen on d5 is bad. And he weakened himself. I just don't like b6. It's a bad move. You know, I think that this is bad. Well, already, you know, he made some stupid move. Like, why did he play knight f6 here? This is the first mistake. Leaving e5 and c5. Hello, your knight is protecting these squares. Hello. That d7 knight is protecting those squares. And you leave it to go here. White avoids the exchange. And now, you know, you can bail out with bishop takes c5. It's a draw, man. But he doesn't care. He plays this, weaken himself. Now he's probably worse. I mean, if black is real on the ball here, I guess he can play bishop e6. But I think white is fine. White's central pawn is a strength and a weakness, I would say. You know, bishop e6, knight here, bishop d5, a3. I would evaluate the position as possibly equal. I mean, is one side or the other really better here? The computer thinks that black is better by like a fraction. Pretty close. But anyways, black plays queen d5 and then here, and now he's threatening bishop c4. So the dude just completely whiffs it and plays this, not seeing the threat at all. And now bishop takes f3. We could play bishop takes d5 maybe. Bishop d5, bishop d1, bishop f7 check. King f8, bishop takes e8. This probably wins the exchange. But it's fine to do it the other way too. It just takes back. Game over. Yeah. So black showed us how not to have a sense of danger. I feel like I've seen this movie before. Oh, yeah. Haven't I seen this movie before? I've seen this movie before somewhere. Did he already send us this game? I don't know. Alright, anyway. I think he's gone. The queen side is going to fall. A little later. Alright, so who's next? Nefedov or Arsenal fan? Who wants to go first? Or Ivanchuk? Arsenal? Is Nefedov lurking in his lurkum? Like the Lorax? Nefedov has a lurkum. Am I blurry again? No, I just look. It's just a shitty quality camera. Okay. Nobody ever takes interest in my games. Dude, are you serious? You gonna put that albatross around our necks? We're not gonna take the bait, man. Nobody ever cares about my games. Alright. We'll do Arsenal fan. Yeah, because I have no viewers, Arsenal fan. If I had any viewers, they would probably comment on your games too. d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight c3, bishop to b4. You're playing white against Kamsky. So gotta play c5. Nobody loves me. So c5, I think, is one of the main moves, but I haven't been real excited about it. You know, I'm not really excited about it. D takes c5, and now he castles. I mean, I feel like the c5 is probably one of the most deeply known lines. Now, knight f3 is correct. You can also play bishop g5. That has a bad score. I don't trust a3. That's a main line, right? a3 takes, queen takes. This is not a main line. What variation am I thinking of? So c5 takes. If black plays knight a6 right away, then a3. Okay. That's what I was thinking of. So takes, castles. Knight f3 is correct. He plays knight a6. You play bishop g5. g3 is the main move. It's a little bit counterintuitive because, you know, it's not common in the classical Nimzo to play g3 because this Achilles heel on c4 is often weak. So g3 is kind of a hard move to find if you don't know theory. You could, for example, play this kind of indiscriminate bishop d2. But you played bishop g5. Well, it was played by Ivan Sokolov twice, so that's good. He wrote a book on the opening. How bad can it be? So what's the problem with bishop g5? It's going to be some kind of queen a5 thing? Takes and knight e4? Can black take and play knight e4? Check. Oh, speaking of Tot Bela. See, he was in Italy in 1984. Queen takes c3, knight e4. He actually... Mario Lanzani, Italian masters. Bishop takes d8, knight takes c3, bishop h4, knight e4, knight d2. Wait, there's a nice little bishop pair here. Knight d2, king d2, and white is better after knight takes c5. Two bishops. So, I'm not convinced by that, though. Bishop takes c3. Yeah. Gotta play h6, and that's a novelty here. But if I played this position for black, acerbate as white. I have one game against Amoeboid. That's one of the cult members in my simuls. The very solid Amoeboid. No, I don't know. Yeah, I think it was one of the cult members. Or Merle Dixon and his other 4 accounts. They were all banned. Knight takes c5. This is a normal move. Now, knight d2. Let's see if this follows theory. There's some games here. Yeah, so this is the original Ivan Sokolov game against Zoltan Ribley. Another game against Arlandi. So this is normal. And then black plays h6. Kind of like Gada did in the game. So in the game, Gada played h6 right away. I mean, is there anything wrong with that move? I mean, I guess you could change your mind and play like bishop f4 or something. You could go back to d2. You know, you have options. I will say one thing: you can rip him a new one with like g4, g5. Well, it also could be like backfiring for black, though. If there's some line where you do some crazy stuff. Now you take c5. This just isn't... This is too crazy. Try to castle queenside. You're going to end up like Nimzovich. Bolyubov Nimzovich. This could be bad for white. Yeah, I don't want to encourage anyone to play like that. Alright, bishop h4. And now knight takes c5. a3. Bishop takes e3. Queen takes c3. And now knight on c to e4 was played. But I don't know if I understand knight on c to e4. Let's not pay attention to that. Istrichescu lost to a 2300 in this position. That's not good. So Gatto also played knight on c to e4, but I don't really see the rush, you know. Like, why not a more constructive move? I kind of like the b6. Istrichescu's move. Oh, Istrichescu was white. His opponent played a5. This is also a typical kind of idea. Weakening b5 slightly, but not easy to take advantage of. Black will play b6. But I like b6. I mean, that would be the way I would go. But Gata goes here. Okay, that's fine, but like, what's the point? I mean, what does it do? Does it do anything? Is the knight more flexible on c5? Yeah, but I mean, there are a lot of cases where even knight a4 can be good. Yeah, I mean, if here... But I mean, you know, do you really want to play b4? Your bishop's on h4. It's not like you're going here and then mating me on the long diagonal, like in some cases. I just don't think that, you know, b4 is a big deal. All right, it's a minor point, but I would be more comfortable not committing. So here, this might be an improvement, but it can also backfire. He can play, like, you know, d6 and e5. d4 is a better square for your queen. But for how long? Then you might actually regret not having played b4. Exactly. So you played queen c2. See, now this puts pressure on this guy, but, you know, how fast can Gata get to the c file to harass your queen? b6. So I think at this point, you know, you need to start... I would start thinking about trying to get that face hugger out of my position. Oh, queen e4. Yeah, that's a consideration, all right. You're probably a touch worse here because your development is lagging. But it's definitely a consideration. But you're also, like, conceding any idea of playing for a win. I mean, the problem is you're going to be facing pressure here. e3. Now, I wonder if he should consider bishop a6. Bishop b7 is obviously more principled. Bishop e2, rook c8. And now you moved your queen, which is obviously very logical. Where to go, though? I don't really want to go to d1. See, this would be a situation where actually b2 would be your best square. That's a case where, you know, having played b4, you could play to b2. But at the same time, b4 is very risky because it makes it impossible for you to play b3, and you can't protect your pawn. So there's also queen a4. Very artificial, obviously. But I don't know what to suggest. You're about to get sort of tied to this pawn on c4. Yeah, you don't have a clear square. d3 deserves to be considered. It's hard to say where to put your queen. Maybe queen d1 was a smart move. And now Gata plays g5. Very concrete move. He's not afraid. But, you know, I think he is weakening his king side, and that could be a factor. I'm not sure I would play g5. And if I'm black now, I guess I would still have not played like him. I would have been more ambitious. Queen e7 or something. It's also risky. So he plays d5 here. You could take. Kind of surprised you didn't, to be honest. Okay, you're a tiny bit worse after c takes d5. So nothing wrong with rook c1. And he takes. So I think you're okay. It almost seems like he's okay with a draw here. This should be a draw. If I was winning, if I had to win with black, I would not go for d5 and play this. But I mean, g5 is a little risky. It's a simul game, right? Or this is not a simul game. This is a training game. This is not a simul game. Oh, I see. This was a regular game. 1-on-1. Yeah, I think it's a draw. I'd be stoked to get this position against a strong GM. But now we have some technical questions about the c-file. What about him penetrating into your position at c2? No, rook c7 is a good move. It's very Karpovian. If he can't penetrate into c2, I don't think you can lose. So I was thinking bishop d3. I would argue that after bishop d3, you can't lose, you know? I mean, you should never lose. When I see this move, though, I'm afraid that a rook is going to get into c2. And your knight stops it, but for how long? You know, can he play like e5 or something? Maybe it's not a big deal. I mean, obviously e5 would weaken his f5 square. This is a little risky, but you have to do something. Maybe you should consider bishop f3. I want to play bishop f3 and take with the pawn. And then you still have that. And I think it's a draw after rook d2. Okay, knight e4 after bishop f3 is possible. But this should still be a draw. He is a little bit better. Yeah, he could torture you a bit here. This isn't so easy, true. Knight e4 is a good move. Yeah, maybe we don't want to allow that. Therefore, f3, but f3, okay. Okay. We can deal with f3. King f8, king f2, h5. It's fine. And now, obviously, he's gearing up for e5. But you're not obligated to play e4 here. So an interesting alternative. You have a lot of interesting alternatives. I mean, you could play rook c2. Isn't this just a draw? You did that on the next move, but you played e4. Another interesting move is bishop here. So if e5, you're going to go here. That might tactically be a little bit tricky because it moves like e4. I would play rook c2. Definitely. Because if anybody's better, it's probably black. You have double pawns, and it's a strong grandmaster. So e4, okay, you wanted to play king e3, but what are you doing about e5? Okay, so this was your plan. e5, rook c2. You have e5, rook c2. But your pawns are fixed on the wrong color, you know? I don't think that's necessarily advantageous for white to have your pawns on the same color as your bishop. Luckily, you have this other pawn on g3. So e4, king e7, rook c2. He's going to come in with his king now. So you have a dark square, a slight dark square weakness. That shouldn't be enough to change the result of the game. a5, fixing his pawns in the correct color. f4. You're not committing. I mean, you're not required to play f4 here. Now it's definitely equal. And after e5, he finds some hope. Yeah, f7 is weak. There are various things you could do here, but I would guess like bishop c4. But this happened. This happened. You could also exchange bishops. Then he might take with the pawn, and then this pawn looks a little bit awkward to protect, but I'm sure you're probably fine. Safer not to trade bishops, though. Because the knight and gate could be very, very touch and go, you know. I think you want to stay away from that, if you don't have time, especially. Anything can happen in a knight in game. With the bishops on the board, there's always like waiting moves, and you probably can't lose, you know. So on this side, would be reluctant to trade bishops. You should probably come back. Your knight on c2 is not great, but it can be upgraded. I think it's a draw. So good game. All right. I got this game submitted. Who sent Snedstake sent this game by Ivanchuk. We'll save the other Ukrainian for last. Well, after that move, you traded bishops. Server crashed. All right, so Ivanchuk versus Movahade. I don't know who this guy is. So where is this tournament? Iranian player, that must be young, because we never heard of him. c4, e6, knight f3, d5, e3. I have a lot of experience with this. b3. So it's a neo-Slav type thing. The black isn't committed to c6. Yeah, this reminds me of... Wow. Black now plays what? Move not in the database. This is a very strange move by black. It's got to be in there, huh? No games with knight c6. Rook e8, c6, b6, c5, a6, knight b7. Oh no, there's 11 games. Suspiciously played by Mogsudlu. But I don't think like you would voluntarily play knight c6 in this position. If this position happened, I would think like black would have played knight c6 at an earlier juncture. Like, why does black want to play knight c6 here? Blocking his own c-pawn. Not too many strong players are going to play this move. This is strange. I don't think it's a good move. It's playable, but it's not a good move. You're blocking your own pawn from influencing the center. Acerbate, what do? We play a3, right? I would expect a3. But Ivanchuk doesn't care. He plays d4. And the position looks like kind of Rogozin. Now black plays d takes c4. Ask me, which way do we take back? With the bishop or with the pawn? Bishop is lifeless. Boring. So Ivanchuk takes back with the bishop. The other two players who have played this position, one is Ganguly, and the other one, another player I don't know. He has a combination of Turkish sounding and Indian sounding names. Plays b takes c. This is way more dynamic. But Ivanchuk must have not liked this for some reason. So bishop takes c4 is way less risky, also less dynamic. Black plays a6, h3. It's a Rogozin for all intents and purposes. And now you're playing Ivanchuk. What do you do with black here? Queen e7, rook e8, b5. Planning on playing the bishop to b7, but weakening your queen side. Bishop e2, bishop b7, castles, and now e5. Yeah, this reminds me of some Karpov games I've seen with white. Karpov Gelfand, maybe. Wow. So Ivanchuk just takes on b5. I would say black has a lot of self-confidence to play like this with black against Ivanchuk. But there's a tactic here. Okay, so takes. We sack a piece, get it back. Knight takes e5. Knight takes e5. b5 is weak. Black plays queen e7. Now what? Like queen d4? That doesn't look right. But white's a pawn up here. Yeah, bishop f3 is possible. Or is it? Let's see. Bishop e5, bishop e5, bishop f3, bishop f6. Queen f6, queen f3, queen f3, g6. I think that black has very good chances to draw this, but definitely playable. Ivanchuk brings the knight back. It looks passive, you know. I admit that bishop f3, this is going to take some calculation. Hey, there's your suggestion, bro. Arsenal fan, you of all people should have seen knight e4. When I suggest bishop f3, you say knight e4. But when you suggest bishop f3, I didn't see it. Of all things, the exact same thing from your game. Knight e4. Yep, that looks like a good move. Yeah, and obviously, I mean, I looked at this, but it's too precarious after c5. We get into a very bad situation there. So Ivanchuk's up a pawn here. He doesn't want to take any risks. He goes back. Now black makes a really strange move, honestly. I mean, is this a rapid tournament or something? His pawn's hanging, though. Yeah, I guess it's not that strange. How about rook a5? I want to introduce you to a friend of mine. Well, I guess it's the same idea. He does it on move 17. Yeah, it's less subtle. This way you don't know what's coming. Very primitive attacking plan with that. Ivanchuk sees it instantly. But I mean, the move has some advantages. It fixes a2 as a target. So knight d2, this looks passive too. He's preparing your bishop f3. And then rook fd8. So that's annoying. But now we have a serious question about bishop f3. This kind of looks reasonable here. Yeah, bishop f3, queen f3. Are you going to get a rook on the 7th or what? I mean, yeah, I mean another... Oops, that doesn't work. Whoops, that doesn't work. So bishop f3, it's the same goddamn move, knight e4. Fuck. Keeps happening all the time. It still works. We could do bishop takes f6, queen f6, bishop f3. Then we start running into queen e5. The audacity of this guy to lose a pawn against Ivanchuk. So, here, here, here. This looks passive for white, right? He's like, just barely okay. Black doesn't have any immediate threats. And then rook a5. And so this looks really scary. But Ivanchuk is just like, nah, it's not that scary. I'm not scared. Rook c5, knight c4, rook g5. Now apparently Ivanchuk blunders. Yeah, well, it's something I would do. But I don't understand what's wrong with bishop f1. I would prefer to play bishop f1 than g4. And I don't really see the problem with bishop f1. You're going to have to convince me. I mean, I would play g4 if I didn't have another option, but I'm not playing it if I can play bishop f1. Clearly Chucky saw knight e4. Right. Yeah, but I mean, this isn't a big deal now. Because we could take this out. You know, I think, like, black is losing, you know, slowly this game. So I don't know why he wouldn't play bishop f1. It's very strange. I'm actually quite surprised that black has almost enough compensation there, according to the computer. But okay, white's only up a pawn. And black's pieces are pretty active. But I would think like losing this bishop on d6 would be a bit of a problem. So there is a technical problem. Bishop f3, I saw that, but I didn't think it did anything. Wow. So this guy is like a human tactical machine. What's wrong with rook d4? Ivanchuk calculates extremely deeply, so he must have seen this. Rook d4, knight e4. Why not knight takes d6 now? Oh, fuck. Mate in 4. Well, I don't think our hero with the black pieces is getting any awards for his positional play. He must be good at tactics. So he would have seen this. Holy shit, bro. Just brute forced it. Rook takes g2 check, bishop takes g2, queen g5. And Ivanchuk would have been splattered. So white has to be really, really careful after bishop f3. Damn, you can sack the exchange. Rook takes d6. Then black is slightly better, apparently. Wow. So that's why Chucky played g4. There is an out though. Bishop f1, bishop f3, h4. That looks like one of the moves I would play in my simul, and then like the computer would be like double question mark. You're crazy. Bishop d1, rook d1. So this is just another exchange sacrifice. Black is slightly worse. So g4, and now black plays a very natural move here, h5. But apparently he had better. So if you have better than h5, what is that? Bishop e4, knight e4? Just a standard knight e4? That's like equal. That's the best move. No. Fuck. This is unbelievable. He has knight takes g4. Oh. It's like the Rubinstein Immortal game. Rod-Levy Rubinstein. I'm surprised this guy, well, it's easy to like maybe second guess yourself against a world-class player. It seems like it would be right up Black's alley. He misses it, plays h5, and Ivanchuk is able to simplify his way to survival. The White's king is open, but after that exchange of pieces, things are a lot different now. Bishop f3 can't be played. The rook on d8 is hanging. He has to retreat. And now rook d4. So it's all Ivanchuk in a technical position now. Boom. Do you like trade? Yes? Wow. This is quite a move, man. No, g4 is protected. Holy shit. Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. I also hallucinated that wasn't protected. I mean, Black's in trouble now. Hello? I bet he's not the best defender, this guy with Black. Good attacker, though. Check. And the rook in game. So rook in game is f5 pawn goes. What about this pawn is irrelevant, right? Unless I can play a3, I'm not up a pawn. That would be scary. So he doesn't want to trade. Nice. You kind of figured this might be holdable, though. Doesn't matter. It's lost. I thought maybe rook b5. Rook b5, rook g4. g5, and black can draw. Unbelievable. Whereas takes, this is apparently a win. The rook is in a perfect position. Keeping an eye on this, keep an eye on this. The king walks over. Yeah. It was a funny game. The thanks to Snitsnake for sending this in. Definitely worth taking a look at. Now he's just playing with his food. Okay. Alright. Last game is not Arsenal fan. It's Nefedov versus Kamsky. We get a different look. Nefedov versus Kamsky. It's Khan Sicilian. Do you guys get like a group discount or something? E4, C5, knight f3, E6. D4, C takes D4, knight takes D4, A6. So, can you play openings by request? This is Yogata's longtime repertoire. But he does play E5. Plays e45. Now, Nefedov with a very strange move. This must be like preparation. Can you trick Kamsky into playing the Najdorf or something with bishop e2? Yeah, Nefedov tricks him into playing the Najdorf by playing bishop e2. Nefedov, maybe next time you can try knight to d2. I think this is kind of a cool move that's rarely played. Giving you a little bit of like a Tarrasch French feel. So this is a rare move, but allows transposition to the Najdorf. Although, are there any independent possibilities here, like bishop b4? I'm not quite sure what this is. I guess Nefedov left us. But thanks everyone else for tuning in. We also had a Kurdo Haldori follow 41 minutes ago. Not sure what this is, actually. What about e5? It's like maybe a weird pin variation with a6 and bishop e2 included. Mr. Coffee with Anonymous Ghost. So anyway, we transpose the Najdorf. Everybody's happy. Nefedov is happy. You're not watching this boring game. You tricked him into playing the Najdorf. Very, very good. And now bishop e3. Bishop e7. Castles. Queen c7. So, Kamsky with an interesting move order. He plays queen c7 now, giving Nefedov a little bit of an unusual look. Most players would normally play castles or knight to c6. You know, I don't think that this is an issue in most cases. I'm not honestly sure what the point of queen c7 is exactly. There are some independent variations where black doesn't play the knight. So I remember long ago studying some lines where black plays maybe like b6, bishop b7, pressure on the e4 pawn. So I see he doesn't do that, but he plays b5. I mean, this is our main concern in this kind of Najdorf. Black will try to put pressure on the e4 pawn, I would think. So a4. But I don't know if Nefedov is into playing a4. If a4, b6. You can obviously play that. You choose not to do that, okay? So this is more combative now. b5, very aggressive. We're going to see b5, bishop f3, I would think. b5, bishop f3, bishop b7, a3 would be like normal Nefedov. But normal Nefedov doesn't happen in this game. I'm absolutely expecting bishop f3. I wasn't sure what would happen if he goes b4 there. Chaparinov versus Krum-Georgiev. Or Georgiev. This guy has 2 games with black in this line. Most people, including myself, would play bishop b7. And now you can play e5. Boy, this looks familiar. But a3 is also very Nefedovian. A little bit more passive. But Nefedov goes... This is reeking of like home preparation or something. Wow, e5. I would suspect Nefedov of preparing a concrete variation here. I've almost certainly never had this position with black. Who knows in the history of my game, but I never really played Queen C7, so I don't know. I would have played the Skaveningen against Nefedov. I could possibly have got some Skaveningens, Najdorf similar, but not this exact combo. You got a David Bronstein game, 1997. That's about the latest possible David Bronstein games. Udazin, 1997. And that's it, man. So it's a quite rare variation. E5, DE5, FE5, and now it is possible to take this pawn on E5. John Wallace and Bronstein. So actually, the first game of this was played was Sahis Bronstein, 1997. Yeah, I had something similar. Bishop F4, Queen C5. Who was that against? Bishop F3. This is very sharp. And John played Queen A7 and beat Naf. But apparently white is winning here. So Queen A7 is no good. In fact, the best move is Rook A7, and that's never been played. Unbelievable move. Rook A7, bishop takes B8, Rook D7. Oh my god. So it's very, very dangerous. Very, very dangerous to accept this pawn. Kamsky knows that. He plays this. Now we're looking at possible sacrifices. Double sacrifice. Rook takes S7. What would Tal do? Talyudov. What would Talyudov play? Rook takes F7, knight takes E6. Yeah. I think Rook F7 looks a little bit overly optimistic, but it would be fun to play this, no? Now black would take on E5. Yeah, this almost works. Do we have any other move, though? Rook F7. Oh my god. It works, dude. So you have Rook F7. This actually works. How could you not play Rook takes F7? I was just kidding around. Apparently this is sound. So Rook F7, King F7. Tal would have ripped him apart, man. Bishop H5 check. Oh. G6. Queen F3. Does he have an alternative to taking on F7? No. Dude, that's like lights out. Oh my god. That's crazy. And look at all the games where this was played. White almost won all the games anyway, and no one ever found Rook takes F7. People need to get some guts, man. Wow. The games go back to 1976 with no one finding Rook takes F7. Including, but not limited to, Nefedov. I just want to know for the record that I didn't use the engine to find that move. It was just instinctive. Of course, knight takes c6 needs to be considered as well. Not as disruptive. This is the base of the pawn chain. E6 is just, it's the front, you know, the head of the pawn chain. But destroying the base of the pawn chain, I really wanted to do a double piece sack, but the computer said this is too much. This is too much. This is unsound. But bishop g5 is winning. h5, whatever. Unsurprising. Jeez. So this variation is like busted. So b5 is just busted. You just refuted, this move altogether. Well, I mean, it looks like the best might actually be this. Queen takes e5, bishop f4, queen c5, bishop f3, and now rook a7. Bishop takes b8, rook d7. This was the engine line. This is the only way that black can try to defend against a Nefyatov attack. You can tell Gata to play this next time. It doesn't look like it's good enough, though. Yeah, I don't think you're going to see b5 next time. It's a risky move to play. But it has a history. It was even played by Yakovenko. Man. This is just brutal. Nothing he can do. What about like knight d5? It's even worse. Look at this. Knight e6. It's that bad for black. So fe5. I don't know how well Gata knows the Najdorf. I know he plays the Khan. So maybe he didn't take your bishop e2 too seriously. Bishop f3. I don't know that he knows this. You've transposed some normal games now. Oh, now you sacrificed. And we're following four over the board games, including a tournament I played in. My first ever... The fourth game on the list was my first ever... first Saturday IM tournament in 1997. Slaji was 2275. Or 2280. I don't remember. I played against these guys October 1997. The first tournament I ever played in Budapest. And Horvath Adam was probably winning that tournament. He was very strong, even back in 97. Knight takes e6, f takes e6, queen takes e6, and now nothing's mandatory. You're always welcome to resign, Arsenal fan. There is a scary threat, though. No, I mean, it looks like we have to consider knight c5. But I also want to point out the fact that White is threatening knight to d5. Possibly. If it was White's turn in this position, you might very seriously consider playing knight d5. But knight g7 check obviously is huge. So yeah, it's probably forced. Take, take. And then black lost all 4 games where this was played. But the first one was Kostic, 1990. And then, very interestingly, the other 3 games were all played in 97. Which makes me suspect that maybe the Spianu game came first. If Adam Horvath was well prepared and he knew that game, he could have very well been repeating what he knew against Andrew Allen. He was extremely well trained. He could have known this Spianu game. Queen c6, queen f7 check, king d8, and then knight d5. But Horvath Adam is a very good open Sicilian player. I'm not sure who his coach was. I don't know, But kind of reminded me of Sachs a little bit, stylistically, or reminds me. very good on the white side of open Sicilians. Very well prepared theoretically. Of course, he was kind of a kid back in '97, but still. He made his IM title probably in this tournament. Alright, bishop takes e3, check, knight takes e3, queen c5. So we left the other dude played rook f8 and lost. This is best. We're following Nispiano Maximenko. All the exact moves. And now Nefedov plays a novelty. One of these guys, Juan Roll or Nispiano, played pawn takes d7. And the other one played rook a e1, which is also very strong. I mean, is black threatening like queen e7 here? Sort of try to develop or something? I guess black is just basically dead. You would think like king h1 would come into consideration, but I guess rook f8. Is it a big problem, rook f8? Seems like it might be kind of inconvenient. Yeah, someone played rook a e1. Which one was that? So Roll played rook a e1, and then the Cuban guy played rook e8. But I would trust Nispiano better. He just took. Black took with check. White plays king h1. Black's king is totally marooned in the center. Knight takes d7. Rook a d1. Queen e8. What about like rook a7? It doesn't matter. He's lost in all lines. So Nispiano is probably right. It's simpler to do it this way. Simpler to just take, give him the knight, and you're just winning. The Nefedov's move looks reasonable. Black has rook a7. Can't play e7. So here. And now queen g5. So we have e7 check followed by e8. But Gata survives with those two knights against a rook. Yeah, at this point, it kind of feels like maybe black is holding on. Just about. I mean, this is exactly the kind of thing that Gata would be good at, you know, defending a technical position. Does he get some fortress draw? I mean, the rook's pretty good here. I would think that's a strong move. Maybe you want to consider playing b3? But he wants to get his pawns going. Okay. This way your pawns don't get forked. But he's threatening this, and he's threatening this. So now Nefedov is actually down material. These pawns are going to be pretty fast, though. Oh my gosh. Study like endgame. Oh no, he sacks. He lets you queen or something? What happens here? Draw here? Draw all that? That's so anticlimactic. I thought we were going to see some kind of fortress with like 2 knights against the queen or something. I wanted to see like Gata with 2 knights, 2 knights and 2 pawns against the queen, something like that. Yeah, it was a short game. You know, Gata must have been disappointed. But I think we learned something interesting from this. You know, this whole variation is just refuted. He would never repeat this again. But instead of king h1, instead of rook e1, well, where? Can you be more specific? Rook e1, rook f e1, queen f6 check, and take the rook. That would amount to the same thing, right? I imagine Nefedov is winning here. So you can play queen f6 check, and then play pawn takes knight. Oh no, and now if rook d8, you can take. Maybe this is what he's talking about. About a queen sacrifice? Now look at this, and you promote another queen. There. So if he had played this queen f6 check, he has to go to c7. You just take. You're threatening to promote. And if he blockades... So he has to play like knight c6. And you just win the exchange. You're just totally winning. Okay, it's not easy. Not easy. And we give a lot of respect to the strong players. But I think, you know, the most interesting position was the one where here, where Nisipianu just simply takes the knight. You know, this is a very practical thing to do. If Black's lost, he's lost. He has to take your knight with check. You go, and now he has to take here. Now, is there any way Black can defend this? Rook a d1. Yeah, he played queen e8, queen f6 check, king c7, queen d6 check. You know, this is the kind of game that was probably in the Chess Informator in 1997. That's how Horvath Adam could know about it. There was Chess Base too, obviously. But this is a spectacular game that would likely have been published in Chess Informant and analyzed, you know. I would think. A piece sacrifice like that in the opening. But maybe it doesn't have independent significance. I mean, it already been played, no. The variation is apparently a mistake. So check this out. When Nefedov plays... Okay, rook f7 is the best move. No one ever found the original rook f7. Slaggy novelty. Crushing. Queen e5 is best, but it's still bad. We looked at that. But interestingly, here, you can still do rook f7. And it was even played by Sokolov Andrei. Another Hungarian tournament. So even this is possible, a delayed rook sacrifice. But Sokolov didn't win against Shaporinov. Now that's Andrei Sokolov, not Ivan. But the interesting thing is this. So it looks like got it out of his depth here theoretically, but knight c6 seems to be better. And so this was played as recently as 2017. Udazin found it. This is still bad, though. It's still bad for black. Queen takes g7. Leonid managed to survive after castling queenside against Raichagov. So takes, queen takes f7. Obviously a very scary position for black. And the stronger player managed to hold a draw somehow. But that's a better try than Kamsky's g6. Clearly Nefedov was all well prepared for him, booking up on his obscure Najdorf lines. But it's all very strong. Funny that you could even play king h1 here. That's another amusing variation. Just don't capture the bishop with king h1. This is also very strong for white. Yeah. So Nefi is still winning. Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for the games. I gotta go. It's late. We'll see you all Friday tomorrow. Arsenal fan. Great preparation there, Nefedov. You should have seen rook takes f7. Novelty. What was that? We got a follow from Just Matt. Thanks, guys, for following, for the subscriptions. For Mr. Slow's donation of $31, the World Senior Fund, we're up to 1863.22. Only 51 days to go, guys. Friday's tomorrow. We're going to play Blitz, an hour or 2 hours. Blitz stream in the afternoon. And then Sunday Simul. That's the schedule for the rest of the week. Thanks, you guys, for submitting your games and making my stream great again. I'll look for you tomorrow and then Sunday. Thanks, ever, for tuning in. Thanks for the games. Bye-bye.